The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Welcome back. It's Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata. Sterling Fox with you, co-host Tony Juventu, Executive Director of the Condominium Homeowners Association of British Columbia. Our guest is Paul Mendez from the law firm L'Esperance Mendez in downtown Vancouver. Paul is a Strata lawyer, and here's a doozy of an email from Tony's collection. Here we go, Paul. A Strata Council member has not paid their fees for 3 months, the Strata fees. The remaining council are aware of this, but they don't impose fines, or a demand letter to avoid filing a lien. As a result, this council member continues to be on council and making decisions about other owners in arrears. The owners in the Strata eventually find this out, and they issue a petition demanding a special general meeting, removing the entire council and electing a new one. The council at the special meeting are not removed, and the remaining owners are frustrated by council not enforcing the bylaws equally against all owners. Options for dispute resolution in this one. Sort of a double standard at play here, Paul, at very least.
Yes, and this is actually a very common problem, especially in smaller stratas where council members may tend to treat themselves a little bit differently than they treat the other owners who aren't on council. And I know certainly from a lot of the calls that I receive, there's a general perception out there that that may be the case.
Two sets of rules,
Two
right?
sets of rules. And
Right.
under the law, council members have a duty to act in good faith and in the best interests of the strata, and they also have a statutory duty to avoid conflicts of interest. And this would definitely fall under that general description. However, I will point out this, that being in arrears of your strata fees does not automatically disentitle you to be on council. The strata actually requires a bylaw that puts the council person in a position where they can no longer stay on council if they're in arrears. So we shouldn't jump to conclusions that just because someone is in arrears, they're not entitled to be on council. But certainly when an owner is in arrears, the strata has an obligation to collect those arrears and use its enforcement options under the Act. They should be doing that against the council member as well. Or you run into the situation that when the strata does go to enforce against a non-council member, their defense, one of the defenses they may be able to raise is, I'm being treated differently than another owner on council.
Right.
And if the strata needs the money, which it often does, because they're non-profit corporations, a master of the court hearing an application, say for example to enforce a lien and sell a lot, if they see evidence and accept evidence that the council is not enforcing the same rules against themselves, they will give that owner a longer time to pay.
Interesting. Okay, so there will be some flexibility there.
There will be.
And a recognition that a double standard is happening and it's not exactly kosher. Right?
I would expect that. And if a council member who is in arrears came to me with this sort of evidence, I would be recommending to them, if it was going to court on a forced sale because the strata was enforcing a lien against their strata lot, to include this in their evidence and try to argue for a longer period of time to pay. And I think a court would be sympathetic to that.
Typically, Tony, if you don't pay your condo fees, how much latitude or how much leash do they give you before they go to Paul and say, we got to get this guy, we got to sell this guy's apartment. He's not paying his fees. It's been X number of months now. We need the dough. What's that X number of months likely to be? How many?
Well, step one needs to be that Strata Corporation needs to have a business management plan so that they get an arrears list every month. They have an active list of those amounts that have not been paid to the Strata Corporation for a variety of things.
You'd think that would be an automatic.
You know what? I look at so many bylaws. I attend a lot of Strata Council meetings.
Yeah.
I rarely see a monthly arrears list at the council meeting where the council actually makes decisions on what are we going to do about these receivables each month. Council has to make the decisions because it deals with bylaw enforcement.
Sure.
Nobody else can make the decisions, and the bylaw enforcement decision needs to form part of the minutes. We're not talking about identifying individuals in the strata, but we're talking about the fact that council made decisions regarding 3 strata lots this month who are in arrears, who've received demand letters, who liens will be filed within 25 days if they haven't paid the amount, right?
Okay.
And so strata councils have a duty to act in the best interest of the Strata Corporation, which means collect the money. But when you have this kind of varied behavior, it becomes very difficult. And the bigger problem is this creates a culture of unwillingness of cooperation within the strata.
Right.
When Strata Council randomly enforces bylaws against some people and not others,
Oh, boy.
within a very short period of time, everyone will start to disregard the bylaws, and it creates a much greater problem for the Strata Corporation. So there's a cultural impact of the behavior as well as the economics. The other side of the economics are what happens when you haven't done this for 1 month. Do you take it to 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
Yeah.
Right? Really, you get an arrears list at your next council meeting. At that council meeting is when you decide to send demand letters, when you decide that, within 30 days, if they haven't paid, we're going to be notifying that we'll be filing a lien. It's the only way to protect the interests of the Strata Corporation. If the owner of that strata lot goes into bankruptcy, if there's a foreclosure by the bank, if
Right.
there's a whole bunch of issues and reasons why the strata wants to do this.
Typically, Paul, how long, though, what kind of room would a person who's in arrears with their condo fees be given by the Strata Council to resolve this and get back up to zero balance?
In my experience, typically a couple of $1,000s in arrears will see the strata file a lien. Refer it to legal. Liens you should be filing once a person's in arrears 1 or 2 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and but even the filing doesn't automatically mean that the apartment's going to be sold tomorrow.
No.
But it serves as a bit of a
Security.
a reminder that, if this doesn't happen, you don't get yourself zero balance, we're going to have to sell your apartment.
Yes, it's a question of security, and that's what concerns me about this scenario. The strata is not acting in good faith if it's not securing the debt that this particular council member owes with a lien.
Okay, and again, these are, as you pointed out, civilians. These are not lawyers, though many of themselves may fancy themselves to be quasi-legal in their wisdom. But it really, again, with conflict and dispute resolution, this is just beyond a couple of people having a tiff over a leaky pipe or something, a barbecue. Or this is now dollars and cents and big-time stuff, isn't it?
It is. And it's, as with a lot of these disputes, the way the strata deals with them will affect the way they deal with other problems in the future and how owners perceive the council is going to deal with bylaw enforcement issues. A council that takes a lax approach or an inconsistent approach is going to have a tough time enforcing the bylaws when it comes to something that's serious.
Paul Mendez, you're a very calm, logical sort of fellow, and if someone's been listening to this program for the last hour going, I have a bit of a problem, I'd like to talk to that fellow, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, you can contact me by telephone. My number is 604-685-4894.
Okay.
And I'm also available by email, which is one of the best ways to reach me, is pgm@lmlaw.ca.
All right, Paul Mendez, thank you. Tony, we'll see you next time on Quay Pacific's Talk About Strata.